What's the wildest dream you've ever had? I used to have a recurring dream. It would start with me being alone in a house in the kitchen. I walked into a big room and closed the door behind me. It was dark. The room was empty, except for one of those wind-up jack-in-the-box things on the other side of the room, and it would start to wind down and play some kind of creepy clown music. I knew I couldn't just back out of the room, the door was now locked. But there was a door on the other side by the jack-in-the-box. I also knew I had to get out before it went off. So, I ran for the door on the other side of the room. I made it before the jack-in-the-box went off. Beyond the door was a hallway. There's a door that goes to the bathroom, and the hallway continues to wrap around the corner. I know something bad is coming from around the corner, so I hide in the bathroom. The door is closed, but I still see these child-sized mechanical toy things march down the hall and towards the dark room. Once they pass, I know it's safe to leave. I go back down the hall, through the dark room, which is no longer a danger. I know the door is unlocked now, and I go back to the kitchen. Then a group of friends comes in from outside. They were done roasting marshmallows over a campfire. I feel safe again, and the dream ends. This dream always happened exactly the same way, feelings and all. It was like I kept having it for the first time. Only upon waking up did I realize I'd had it again, and I always woke up after the dream ended, as far as I know. I used to work for Coca-Cola years ago. I absolutely hated it, terrible bosses, barely mediocre pay, etc. I quit there almost 20 years ago and have been with the same company since I left. Well, a few years ago I had a dream that I quit the company I am at and went back to work for Coke. I was miserable, same old crap as before. The dream was so real, that when I woke I laid in bed and was convinced I had went back to work for Coke. I was legitimately depressed and sad for about 20 minutes until I realized it was just a dream. In this dream I was suddenly on my grandparents' farm and I could tell I was about 10 to 20 years older than I am right now. The sky was burning an angry red-orange mix and the sun was burning so bright that I felt like my skin was on fire. I saw dozens of people running around, screaming, trying to find loved ones, and just general panic. I realized that everyone was panicking because we were all being burned alive by the sun. I was wandering around, feeling like I was looking for someone I loved, but I didn't know who that was. A random man was running and he stabbed me in the gut. He was crying and just stammering that he didn't know what to do. What should any of us do? I woke up then with my eyes literally hurting and I felt like my gut was on fire. Took weeks if not months to not still feel that when I thought about it. When I was younger I had a super freaky dream. In the dream, my family and I were supposed to be moving to a new house. We arrived at the new place to take a look around. The previous owner's furniture was still in there, mostly boxed up and ready to go. I decided to go upstairs and found a corridor behind a panel in the wall. The corridor was kind of dusty and cobwebbed, and there was a door at the end of it. I opened the door into a room that was almost an exact copy of the room I shared with my older sister in my real home, save for a few extra bits. There was a vanity table, one of those built-in ones with cupboards surrounding it, and a big mirror at the back. And on the table was a small TV with built-in VCR that was on but playing static. Stuck all around the mirror were photos from my childhood, birthday parties, first day at school, etc., and in every one there was another person next to me but their faces was scratched out. The TV suddenly started playing a VHS tape, a family video of my 6th birthday party, except that other person was there again, but the face was blurred out. There were other copies of things around the room I had as a kid or drawings I remember doing, but they all had a different name on them. Dream me got creeped out and left the room and walked back downstairs to join my family as they were leaving the house. I turned back and glanced up the stairs to see someone who looked exactly like me peeking around the top of the stairs, looking straight back at me. Absolutely freaked me out and I told my mum about it when I woke up. She seemed fairly nonplussed and chose to respond by saying, "Well, you were a twin, but I'm scared, maybe they were saying hello." I lived an entire life. From birth to death. I was trying to quit smoking in the late aughts and had a nicotine patch on, which would give me really weird and vivid dreams. Slept for 11 hours one night and lived this other life. Was the most bizarre and crazy thing I've ever experienced. It was so vivid and so real. I promptly forgot all but a little bit of it while waking up, but the emotions and sensations still remain. It was a typical horror movie setting. I was staying in a dark house with other young persons, who were dying one after another in strange, superficial ways. The last one died by starting to throw up goose eggs with a colorful logo printed on them. At the end the front of his face split open. The young staff of the house turned out to be apprentices of a magician and were all into gruesome self-harm, but a certain spell held them together. I remained the last survivor when the chief magician, a tall person with a really small head, revealed himself. At that point he and the staff started to openly discuss how to kill me. However, there was this mobile video game, created by a powerful magician, which they were playing. After completing each level, powerful spells were revealed on the screen. They were not able to pass the last level with the ultimate spell as a reward. I did manage to win and showed my success from afar. Then I quickly turned off the phone, telling them I'll tell them how to win if they keep me alive. The magician with the small head started to think what to do with me. He climbed the window and suspended himself from the top with his hands behind his back, close to dislocating his shoulders. Then I woke up. At the start, I was walking through my old university campus when I was confronted by an ex, who I had dated at a different university. She started to yell at me about how I had given her a horseshoe hammer in an incorrect manner, and we argued for a little bit. We then told each other that we would see each other tonight at her place for dinner. I then walked into a bar and sat down at the counter with the bartender facing away from me. We start chatting about relationship troubles and he is giving me great relationship advice. He then turns around and it's fucking Sean Hannity from Fox News. Sean then starts telling me all this great advice, and I'm sitting there absolutely flabbergasted, like I can see my reflection behind him and it's clear that I am confused by the whole thing. I proceed to interrupt him and we then have this exchange. Me: hold on a fucking minute, aren't you supposed to be on Fox News? Sean: oh, that's my side gig, this, bartending, is my day job. Me: okay. I then pay for my drink, wish him a nice day, and walk out the front door. I am now on a patio about 2,000 feet off the ground. In front of me is some large bay/harbor area filled with mud and water. In the distance is the skyline of some shattered city. In this harbor/bay is a number of absolutely massive submarines scattered in various parts. The pieces then start pulling themselves together into these huge submarines. I blink my eyes close. I reopen my eyes and I am somewhere different. I am in some large underground lab, decked out in body armor with an AK in my hands. A earpiece in my ear tells me that I need to get the fuck out of there. I start running and come into a room where a number of scientists are working on various projects. They see me, start yelling, grab tools and run towards me. I shot all of them without a blink. I keep running. I go through the next door. Now I am on a rooftop alongside a busy highway. I am being shot at, and I return fire. I jump off the roof onto the highway and keep running. The gunfire stops and I start walking. I blink to take a deep breath of nighttime air, and I wake up. I swear to God that this dream happened. We are in the future, and I'm on a huge prison train full of dozens, if not hundreds of other people. I remember the train was really wide. It wasn't running on one set of tracks but probably 8 or more tracks in parallel to support its girth. Lots of big armored guards looking like dudes out of Warhammer/Fallout. I eventually get to the destination and I'm dragged before their emperor. He's running the whole show. This guy has absolute power and is ruling ruthlessly and the whole world is suffering. I remember feeling so overcome and helpless and just sad. I had no weapons. I was not some crazy strong person who could assassinate him, just one frail broken man in a broken world, and they certainly didn't have any reason to fear me. As they dragged me closer I eventually got face to face with him, and he was just as supervillain badass as you can imagine. On his throne, surrounded by guards and sniveling advisors. And I grabbed him. I grabbed him and let out all the emotion I could. I thought about every person who was suffering, everyone who was in pain, all the sorrow of the world. But also all we had before the war, all the joy and pleasure and love of mankind. I thought of green fertile fields where now there was a wasteland. Of clear skies full of birds instead of bombs, oceans empty of pollution and filled with life. I thought how it didn't need to be this way. All in the blink of an eye. And he saw. He realized what was happening was wrong. Everything. That their conquest was just nihilism. That the vast efforts they were putting into controlling and winning was their ultimate defeat. That he alone has the power to stop it and take us back. And then I woke up. Just woke up from a very trippy one. It's 4 a.m. here now. The concept itself was weird, as a woman was walking me through her dream, and I was essentially inside it and I could hear her narration of it. She was stuck, in her own words. I saw nothing really stopping her/me from leaving, in a kinda remote rural village. Everyone there looked slightly off, but I can't really point my finger at why exactly. At some point she/I entered a building that was like a one-room school, but there were only a handful of adults there. They all wore slightly old-fashioned clothes, like around the 1950s, I guess, and looked very serious. However, For some random reason, one of those people was showcasing an assortment of what he described as novelty toys. I saw one that was supposed to be fun eyebrows that would attach to your face. What it actually was like a long strip of segmented plastic, like a bunch of sheets vertically attached to each other, all black in color, with the topmost one having a very tiny pair of googly eyes and eyebrows at each top corner. Basically, you were supposed to glue the whole thing to your body, and the eyes and eyebrows would essentially be floating quite a few centimeters off your face. I think the sheets were supposed to be transparent? That's the only way it minimally makes any sense, but it's still completely random. Either way, for some reason the thought of playing with that filled me with so much dread that I woke up. A lot of comments, so not gonna go into crazy detail unless someone requests it, but I had a fucking insane dream once, probably inspired by Inception to a degree. I'm working in some office/call floor environment, and there's an adjacent empty room, like a boardroom, with a window AC unit. The vibe in there is off, almost like a buzz or humming when you're on some serious hallucinogens. So naturally, I have to fuck with it, so I hop, and there's this like Matrix-esque undulation, and I hop again, and it's stronger, more of the same until I'm sucked through the AC unit and transported to an alternate reality. I land in the center of some kind of ritual site, surrounded by 4 elders marking the 4 compass points. First time, I go north, and very much like the final act of Inception, I'm infiltrating this Nordic base and there's guns and a car chase. I go careening over a cliff and boom, back in the office. So this time, I'm incredulous, and so I snag a buddy and go back and repeat the same behavior, hopping, boom, back at the compass site. This time, we go west. Pure desolation, heat, desert sun, etc. It gets a bit fuzzy here, but long story short, no bueno. Boom, back in the office. Now it's like my buddy wants to show people the phenomenon, and so we end up with a whole group in there, all hopping, sucked through the AC, compass point with the elders. This time we go east. Super populated futuristic dystopian ghetto, everyone has O2 tanks, etc. The group dynamic makes making decisions a mess. It gets fuzzy, but I think we passed out or died of something related to the air. Finally, back in the office, by myself, hopping, boom, AC unit, back at the compass, south is all that remains. It feels like I'm walking for a lifetime, to end up at this endless beach, all alone. Then I realize the mountains I'm seeing in the distance aren't mountains but a tsunami. I don't run, I'm so exhausted, and accept my fate, and when the wave crashes down I'm transported to this tranquil space of euphoria, where I can go forward and backward through time, though it's just out of arm's reach, but I can still observe. This, coupled with a dream about the Big Bang I had when I was like 4 years old and had no exposure to any conceptualization of space or astronomy, is why I believe in the afterlife. Hope you like the read. I had this dream in 2016 and immediately wrote it in my notes app, so I will copy and paste. I just woke up from the most realistic dream of my life, whereas I felt everything. All my senses were active. Touch, taste, hearing, smelling, and vision. It started with me climbing into an elevator and the doors started closing, but I wasn't ready and so I put my foot out to stop it. In elevators it has a warning and safety system, so normally the doors would stop closing when it felt something there, but it didn't. It cut my face and sliced into my foot. In shock and in pain I stepped back and let the doors close. My foot was bleeding under my shoe. I was standing in a puddle of my blood and I could taste the blood in my mouth. The elevator then lifted itself. I did not need to put in what floor I was headed to, it had its own destination. But when it got to the top and the doors opened, there was another door that wouldn't open. And on it the number said 2202 and I was stuck. I couldn't do anything, I was trapped. I banged on the door and screamed for help, but I was starting to panic and pass out from blood loss. So I sat on the ground and leaned over to grab my phone and to call my mom because I was scared and dying. Just as I was unlocking it, struggling to stay grounded because of the blood loss and fear, I was starting to pass out. The elevator doors closed and I heard a horrible screeching noise. It then dropped. I was lifted from my seat on the floor because of how fast I was falling and I fell to my death. As horrible and scary as this dream sounds, I woke up without a sweat. I woke up without a racing heart and with no worries. Something tells me this dream really stands for something. It symbolizes something about myself, something about my past, or something about my future. And I do not understand what. I am not shooken up or bothered by my dream. I'm merely shooken up and bothered about how it did not affect and scare me. How accepting I was when the elevator fell, and I knew I was going to die. I want to know what this dream means. I was only asleep for 30 minutes. I haven't been able to sleep tonight. That's everything I had written after the dream, and to this day I believe that number on the door means something. I look for it everywhere, I see it everywhere, I hear it everywhere, I use it in passwords. For a while I thought it meant I would die in the year 2022 because it's reversed. I've researched and Googled for years, I have no idea what that number means. But I know it means something important and I knew it when I woke up from that dream. To this day I remember everything just as it was.